Values and the spiritual life. The most beautiful sound. An uneducated old man was visiting a city for the first time in his life. He had grown up in a remote mountain village, worked hard raising his children, and was now enjoying his first visit to his children's modern homes. One day, while being shown around the city, the old man heard a sound that stung his ears. He had never heard such an awful noise in his quiet mountain village, and he insisted on finding its cause. Following the grating sound back to its source, he came to a room in the back of a house where a small boy was practicing on a violin. "Screech, scrape," came the discordant notes from the groaning violin. When he was told by his son that that was called a violin, he decided he never wanted to hear such a horrible thing again. The next day, in a different part of the city, the old man heard a sound which seemed to caress his aged ears. He had never heard such an enchanting melody in his mountain valley, so he demanded to find its cause. Following the delightful sound back to its source, he came to a room in the front of a house where an old lady, a maestro, was performing a sonata on a violin. At once the old man realized his mistake. The terrible sound that he had heard the previous day was not the fault of the violin, nor even of the boy. It was just that the young man had yet to learn his instrument well. With a wisdom reserved for the simple folk, the old man thought it was the same with religion. When we come across a religious enthusiast causing such strife with his beliefs, it is incorrect to blame the religion. It is just that the novice has yet to learn his religion well. When we come across a saint, a maestro of her religion, it is such a sweet encounter that it inspires us for many years, whatever their beliefs. But that was not the end of the story. The third day, in a different part of the city, the old man heard another sound that surpassed in its beauty and purity even that of the maestro on her violin. What do you think that sound was? It was a sound more beautiful than the cascade of the mountain stream in spring, than the autumn wind through the forest groves, or than the mountain birds singing after a heavy rain. It was even more beautiful than the silence in the mountain hollows on a still winter's night. What was that sound that moved the old man's heart more powerfully than anything before? It was a large orchestra playing a symphony. The reason that it was, for the old man, the most beautiful sound in the world, was firstly that every member of that orchestra was a maestro of their own instrument, and secondly, that they had further learned how to play together in harmony. May it be the same with religion, the old man thought. Let each one of us learn through the lessons of life the soft heart of our beliefs. Let us each be a maestro of the love within our religion. Then, having learned our religion well, let us go further and learn how to play, like members of an orchestra, with other religions in harmony together. That would be the most beautiful sound. What's in a name? When one becomes a Buddhist monk in our tradition, one receives a new name. My monk's name is Brahmavamso, which being so long I usually shorten to Brahm. Everyone calls me by that name now, except for my mum. She still calls me Peter, and I defend her right to do so. Once, during a phone call inviting me to an interfaith ceremony, I was asked to spell my name. I answered, B for Buddhist, R for Roman Catholic, A for Anglican, H for Hindu, M for Muslim. I received such a positive response that I usually spell my name that way now, and also, that's what it means. Pyramid power. In the summer of 1969, just after my 18th birthday, I was enjoying my first experience of tropical jungles. I was travelling in the Yucatan Peninsula of Guatemala, heading for the recently discovered pyramids of the vanished Mayan civilization. In those days, travel was difficult. It took me 3 or 4 days to cover the few hundred kilometres from Guatemala City to the ruined temple complex known as Tikal. I travelled up narrow rainforest rivers on oil-soaked fishing boats, down winding dirt roads balanced precariously on top of heavily loaded trucks, and through small jungle paths on rattling ramshackle rickshaws. It was a region remote, poor, and pristine. When I finally arrived at the extensive complex of abandoned temples and ancient pyramids, I had neither guide nor guidebook to tell me the meaning of those impressive stone monuments pointing to the sky. Nobody was around, so I started climbing one of the tall pyramids. On reaching the top, the meaning and spiritual purpose of these pyramids became suddenly clear to me. For the previous 3 days I had been travelling exclusively through jungle. The roads, paths and rivers were like tunnels through the dense greenery. Jungle quickly made a ceiling above any new thoroughfare. I hadn't seen the horizon for many days. Indeed, I hadn't seen far distances at all. I was in jungle. On top of that pyramid, I was above the tangle of the jungle. Not only could I see where I was in the map-like panorama laid out before me, but I could now see in all directions, with nothing between infinity and me. Standing up there, as if on top of the world, I imagined what it might have been like for a young Mayan Indian who had been born in the jungle, raised in the jungle, and lived all their life in the jungle. I pictured them in some religious rite of passage, being led gently by the hand by a wise old holy man up to the summit